and welcome back to Lumino. Today we're going to be covering the rest of serial killer Jeffery Dahmer's victims. Once again, I would like to apologize for any names I mispronounce. On the 27th of May 1991, Jeff stumbled upon 14-year-old Conrad's missing phone at a local bus stop. At the time, Jeff wasn't aware Conrad was Keeson's younger brother, the 13-year-old who charged Jeff with sexual assault in 1988. Jeff convinced Conrad into his apartment, drugged him, and then had non-consensual intercourse with him. Once he was done, Jeff drilled a hole in Conrad's head, injected acid, and then left to go get himself some beer. Somehow Conrad woke up and was able to make it out of the building into the streets, where Sandra Smith and her cousin ended up calling the police after witnessing him wandering around dazed and nude, bleeding from his rectum. To the responding officials, he appeared to be heavily under the influence of drugs and a drunk homosexual. Once Jeff arrived, he told both officers that Conrad was his 19-year-old boyfriend and that they had a so-called lover's quarrel while drinking. Against the protests of the two women who had called 911, the officers turned Conrad over to Jeff. As a form of security, the two officers tagged along with Conrad and Jeff back to the apartment. They witnessed a very clean apartment with Conrad's clothing folded neatly and placed on the corner of the sofa. Jeff was apologizing to the officers for the disturbance his so-called lover had caused and promised it wouldn't happen again. The officers did not make any attempt to verify Conrad's age or identity, nor locate someone who could communicate with him. They also failed to run a background check on Jeff that would have revealed he was a convicted child molester still under probation. The officers did later report smelling a strange scent while inside Jeff's apartment, but did not bother to investigate it. Later that night, Jeff killed and dismembered Conrad, keeping his skull as a souvenir. On the 30th of June 1991, while waiting at a bus stop after a gay pride parade in Chicago, Jeff met 20-year-old Matt Turner, another victim pursuing a modeling career. Jeff convinced Matt into coming back to Milwaukee with him by offering money in exchange for some nudes. Jeff paid for both the Greyhound bus tickets and they were soon off on their 90-mile ride. Once they arrived to his apartment, Jeff drugged and strangled Matt using a strap. He then cut off his head, wrapped in a plastic bag, and placed it in the freezer, while tossing his torso in a blue 57-gallon barrel containing various dissolving chemicals. On the 4th of July 1991, Jeff paid another visit to Chicago, where he met 23-year-old Jeremiah Weinberger at a bar named Carol's Speakeasy. Once Jeremiah received a semi-approval on Jeff when he asked his roommate what he thought of him, Jeremiah accepted Jeff's offer to go back to Milwaukee with him. Jeff willingly paid for both Greyhound bus tickets again. After they arrived at the apartment, they had sex and Jeremiah spent the night. However, the next morning, Jeremiah was ready to leave and go back home, to which Jeff opposed and ended up offering him a farewell drink. Once the effects of the drink kicked in, Jeff strangled Jeremiah, dismembered his body, and placed his head in the freezer, all throughout making sure to photograph every single moment. On the 12th of July 1991, Jeff met 23-year-old Oliver Lacy near downtown Milwaukee Mall. They went back to Jeff's apartment where they had drinks, fooled around, and then finally Jeff strangled Oliver. Afterwards, Jeff sodomized Oliver's corpse, then sliced the right bicep off and attempted to eat it. He then disposed of the rest of the flesh, keeping the entire skeleton. On the 19th of July 1991, Jeff met Joseph Bradhoff at a bus stop near Marquette University. Joseph accepted Jeff's offer of posing for photos in exchange for money. Once they arrived at the apartment, they had sex and afterwards Jeff drugged and strangled him. This time Jeff didn't dispose of the body right away. Instead, he slept with Joseph's body for a few days until the head became infested with maggots. Finally, Jeff cleaned up and placed Joseph's head in the freezer, while placing the rest of the body in the blue 57-gallon barrel. On the 22nd of July 1991, Jeff lured 31-year-old Tracy Edwards into his apartment. According to the would-be victim, there was a struggle in between them when Jeff was trying to handcuff him. Wielding a large butcher knife, Jeff forced Tracy into the bedroom. This is where Tracy witnessed pictures of mangled bodies on the wall, as well as terrible smell coming from the large blue barrel. Tracy began to put up an even bigger fight. He punched Jeff in the face, kicked him in the stomach, and ran to the door to escape. Running through the streets with handcuffs still hanging from one hand, Tracy waved down a police car for help. Once he explained to them what had just happened, the officers attempted to remove the handcuffs, but their keys would not fit. This led the officers to escort Tracy back to Jeff's apartment. Upon their arrival, Jeff was acting friendly towards the officers. Jeff acknowledged that he was responsible for the handcuffs and pointed the officers in the direction of the bedroom, which is where he thought the keys would be. As the officer checked the bedroom for the keys, he spotted Jeff's photographs of mangled bodies and quickly called for his partner to arrest Jeff. As one officer subdued Jeff, the other officers searched the rest of the apartment. Once he opened the refrigerator and freezer, he found human heads stored neatly in a tied plastic bag, human remains such as severed hands and male genitalia, stored blood, and multiple photos of dismembered victims. Upon further searching, investigators found 4 boxes of hydraulic acid on the kitchen floor. In the hallway closet, they found some chemicals and 2 bleach skulls on a shelf. On the floor at the back of the closet was a large aluminum kettle containing 2 human hands and human genitals. When investigators searched Jeff's bedroom, they found a large knife beneath the bed that Jeff used to threaten Tracy with. Next to the bed was a metal filing cabinet. In the top drawer, they found 3 human skulls laying on a black towel. The bottom drawer contained a complete human skeleton, and in front of it were 2 paper bags. One held the dried remains of human scalp, and the other a set of dried genitals. On the floor, there was a chest of drawers which contained 74 pictures of his dismembered victims, and next to the chest was a box with a styrofoam lid holding 2 more skulls. In the far corner of the room was the blue 57-gallon barrel with a tight-fitting black lid, which was later discovered to contain 3 human torsos in various stages of dismemberment and decomposition. During Jeff's confession, he stated to Detective Murphy he ate the flesh of his victims because he believed that the people would come alive in him. He had tried various seasonings and meat tenderizers to make the human flesh tastier. He also tried human blood too, but it did not appeal to his taste buds. Jeff also confessed to Detective Murphy that eating human flesh caused him to get an erection. Jeffrey Dahmer's trials began on January 30th, 1992 and lasted 2 weeks, for which Jeff pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. However, there was an overwhelmingly amount of evidence against him which helped prove otherwise. Detective Murphy was asked to take the stand during the trials, and he quoted from Jeff's own confession. "It's hard for me to believe that a human being could have done what I've done, but I know that I did it." He claimed that his fear of being caught was overwhelmed by his excitement of being completely in control. The detective drew a chart for the jury, which he read them off quickly: skulls and locker, cannibalism, sexual urges, drilling, making zombies, necrophilia, drinking alcohol all the time, trying to create a shrine, lobotomies, defleshing, calling taxidermists, going to graveyards, masturbating. Once he was done reading, Detective Murphy stated to the court, "This is Jeffrey Dahmer, a runaway train on a track of madness." The court found Jeff sane and guilty on 15 counts of murder and sentenced him to 15 life terms. Later at his sentence hearing, Jeff expressed remorse for his actions and said he wished for his own death. Jeff served his sentence at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin, where he was attacked twice. The first time was in July 1994. An inmate attempted to slash Jeff's throat with a razor blade while Jeff was returning to his cell from a church service in the prison chapel. Jeff was lucky and escaped the attack with only superficial wounds. The second time was on the 28th of November, 1994, while he was doing janitorial work in the prison gym. Jeff and another inmate, Jesse Anderson, were severely beaten by a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarborough, with a broomstick handle. Once finally a prison guard came by to check on them, they found Jeff lying face down in a pool of blood with his head bashed in, while Christopher shouted, "God told me to do it." Jeffrey Dahmer died of severe head trauma on his way to the hospital that same day. Thank you for watching today's video. If you really liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Until next time.